Hello, my name is Dante Hak. I'm a freelance Microsoft Cloud specialist based in the Netherlands. Today, we're going to talk about the main issues that you can come across when enrolling Windows Autopilot devices. As we probably all know, is that Microsoft is selling Autopilot as an experience that you can uh, buy a laptop or a desktop or whatsoever for your company and for your company users, and that they basically can take it out of the box, log in using their username and password, uh, and then start using the device. And then actually the enrollment starts, the policies come to the device, the applications will be installed on the device. Basically everything that you need for your company will enroll to the device. But as nice as that sounds, that's mostly not the uh, end user or IT experience. There are more factors involved that need to be looked at before you can actually enroll devices into Autopilot. That's basically my opinion after the years of experience that I have with Intune and Autopilot. Don't get me wrong; it's in my opinion an amazing product. That can help companies for a huge part. Of course, the main advantage of it is also that if you're in the Microsoft suite and you're already using like Exchange or whatever SharePoint or products in your environment, it's easy to start using Intune as well, also as a part of the license agreement, stuff like that. Maybe you even have it already included in your license, but you're not using it yet, or uh, yeah, I can really advise into using it, but there are some setbacks or drawbacks that need to be looked at, and the main drawback is the fact that you order hardware from your supplier. Uh, Again, I'm based in the Netherlands. And there are some other countries where I'm sure maybe the experience is a little bit better, maybe in the US or other countries. But you order your hardware through your supplier, and basically what need to be done normally to have your device available in Intune is that you need to register the device in your tenant before you can even start enrolling devices. That's part one. And in the Netherlands, mostly that happens when you place an order. Let's say you're a company and you want to order like 200 or 300 laptops for your users, or maybe even 2 or 3,000, doesn't matter. And your supplier is a HP or Lenovo or whatsoever. Uh, Mostly what you see in the Netherlands is that you buy a batch of those laptops and you get also supplied with a file, with a hash file. And that file needs to be uploaded into Intune. And then the devices are known in Intune, so you can actually start using Intune with those devices and start using the autopilot enrollment. Um, but what happens a lot is that, for example, you don't order them in once. You order them in a few batches, or 1 week you order 200, and a few weeks later you order 500 laptops or whatsoever. So every time you get separate batches that needs to be imported, separate files that needs to be imported from the reseller that you buy the product from. Um, and basically it's an administrative hassle, and it can get complicated quite soon. You don't know for which batch is which file, or I've seen at a lot of companies that it's a lot of administrative hassle, and in the end you wanted to start enrolling devices, and at the IT department they see that, hey, it doesn't work, or a lot of problems come forth through that. So this video will hopefully solve that problem. Well, it will solve that problem. And the next step is, well, actually the other issue is that once you order, let's say, in what I come across a lot in the Netherlands is Lenovo devices. I mean, they're excellent devices for a good price. Um, I think there are not a lot of competitive brands that can deliver such a good hardware at such a good bang for your buck, let's say. So a lot of organizations that I work for use Lenovo. On top of my head, the last couple of years, I think the last 5 or 6 years or so, I haven't come across a company that actually uses other hardware than Lenovo. So it's basically only Lenovo that I come across the last couple of years. So let's take Lenovo for an example. Let's say they order a few hundred laptops from Lenovo. It doesn't matter which type. Doesn't matter. They order a couple of hundreds of those. Um, and let's say the administrative part, in the sense of getting the hash file and you import the hash file, everything went correct, everything is okay. You think, okay, I'm ready, set, go. I can start using the autopilot enrollment and actually can kick off and start doing that. Yeah, you can do that. I mean, there is no one holding you back. You probably ordered them. The only thing that you need to look at, but I mean, your reseller will also tell you that, is that basically, if you order those devices, they need to meet certain criteria before you can use Intune. The biggest criteria is that it cannot be a home edition of Windows. So it needs to be Windows 10 or Windows 11, the Pro or the Enterprise edition. Mainly those two editions are valid for using Intune and Autopilot enrollments. The home edition doesn't. So that's basically the only criteria that you need to look at in ordering hardware. So let's say you've done all that. You have, I mean, we're in a Windows 11 age right now. So from now on, I would just talk about Windows 11. 99 out of the 100 times, it's the same for Windows 10. But from now on, I will talk about Windows 11. It makes it more easier. Also, the demo will also include Windows 11. Yeah, I like to be cutting edge. I don't like to be in the live in the old days, let's say so. But a lot of companies that I work for are still working with Windows 10 uh, editions. If a lot of companies, even a few versions before the latest Windows 10 version, even. So they don't even use all the features yet. But doesn't matter. That's just a side note. Okay, from now on, Windows 11. So let's say you ordered a bunch of Windows 11 Pro notebooks from Lenovo, and you start rolling them out. You have the hash file in Intune Autopilot, and you say, okay, I will not go into the Intune and Autopilot setup. I mean, maybe in another video I will explain the options that you have there, but I do hope that you have some knowledge already of the platform. I think you do, because otherwise I think you will not really look for a video that will tell you the options to enroll into Autopilot and stuff like that. So let's say that you already have that set up. You already have an Autopilot enrollment profile set up, and you already have the hash file, and you already is all said and done. You click on the laptop, you start using it, you log in with a user account, and you start the enrollment. That's all well and good. But out of the, let's say, so if you take the notebook out of the box and you have the default OS on it, it contains, like, I must say at Lenovo, it's not even that bad, but it contains bloatware. It has software that the manufacturer puts on, and it can be rather intrusive. It can be even a different antivirus solution than that your company uses. It can be a lot of software that's pre-installed on those machines that can make the end user experience terrible. To be honest, can make it really a big hassle, really unworkable, I can almost say. So it really depends on the model and the type and the OS and stuff like that, how bad it is. But it is not like, if you go that route, it will not be really a 100% same situation for everybody, especially over the years to come. If you order new types of laptops, it can be a completely different experience also for IT. Because there are some scripts that you can use. You can kick them off. You can set them ready in Intune. That will get rid of a bunch of bloatware. But let's say you did that for one type of laptop, and you think, yeah, we're all set and ready. We have it all figured out. And then there comes in a new type of laptop because the other one is not available anymore, or in a few years it's like deprecated, or you want to have new hardware, faster hardware. Let's say you have a different department that uses like power users that need a laptop with a GPU or whatsoever. That need, like maybe some people that do drawings, or doesn't matter. But they use different type of laptops. It's hard to keep track of those changes and to fix um, the images afterwards. So to actually remove the bloatware afterwards. So basically, what the solution would be, and I think that's the reason why you look up this video, is that you want to have an image that you can use for all your devices and that are basically the same. And basically without all the fuss and the bloatware, and you just want Windows, right? Just Windows, and very important, the necessary drivers for the device that you are using, because without drivers, the device will not work properly. So that's also very important. So basically, that's what I'm gonna show you in this video. It will be a long video. I will make chapters. I will try to make chapters in YouTube. If you haven't noticed yet, this is my first video that I make, so please. It's kind of, I must say, it's nice to do, but it's I need to get used to it as well. But I hope I can help you out with this. I'm sure I can help you out actually. It will be a nice video. I will show you from A to Z how we're gonna set things up. And in the end of this video, you will have an ISO file that you can write to a USB flash drive, or you can use that ISO file with a Pixie server uh, uh, server environment to boot off from and to install a clean Windows 11. That Windows 11 installation will have necessary drivers included, and that Windows 11 system will straight away enroll into Autopilot without the administrative hassle. So you don't need hash files from the supplier anymore and to upload that to Intune so that your devices are known there in the cloud. No, we're all going to do that client side. That would make it a lot easier and a lot more flexible, I guess, in that sense, for you. Sadly, there isn't really a solution out of the box that we can use. It will consist of using a few different tools before we can actually go into that. So yeah, basically that. Um, yeah, I will also, if I have time, I'll do a write-up of this as well, so that you can read through it. This is my blog. Anyway, it's cloudbyte.nl. I have some interesting other stuff written here. So if you have time, browse through it, and if you have some comments or whatsoever, yeah, be free to leave them. I will also post the video on my blog as well once it's ready, so you can find it here for future reference. Okay, without further ado, let's jump in. From now on, it will be technical, so I hope I feel myself a little bit more at home than that I did in the last 15 minutes. It was a long introduction. So yeah, we go off. We're going to use a few tools, like I said before. The main tool that we're going to use is MDT, Microsoft Deployment Tools, out of my head. Basically, that's a tool used to create a light touch. It's how they call it, a light touch deployment. That means that you only have to do a few touches of the mouse or keyboard, and then it will install a complete Windows environment on your machine. And we are going to do some smart things with that as well, so that it also includes the Autopilot profile, and it will also include the necessary drivers. I will go through the install. I will go through the configuration part of the tools that are necessary. And in the end, we will have an ISO, and I will also demo that file so that you can see the end result. Again, I will chapter it. So if you want to skip straight away to the end result, be my guest. You can do that, and you can see how the end result would look like for you and for your users. So again, it will mean that this is mainly focused for the IT environment, because you need, yeah, IT personnel, or at least people with knowledge, that will make this ready, or at least make the ISO file ready. And then you need some people that will enroll the devices with that ISO file. And as soon as that enrollment is done, it's really literally, I think, if I use USB 3 flash drive, it's from 5 to 10 minutes per enrollment. So it's really fast. And then you have the login screen that you can log in with the user account, and it will do the autopilot enrollment. Basically, what you want to realize is that you have like a rather small image. So you have the basic Windows 11 image, no hassle, just how Microsoft intended it to be. And that you get the software from Intune. So you have your packages there and stuff like that. But I will show you that later on. I will show you the actual enrollment, and how you can make it maybe even a little bit more fancy with a status enrollment page and such. I will show you that as well. Okay, so without further ado, like I told you before, we need the Microsoft deployment tools. So we're gonna download that. We're gonna do everything here. So again, this is a clean Windows 10, Windows 11. Sorry, Windows 11 installation. I've updated it to the last updates, cumulative updates as well, completely the last. And that's basically it. I'm running it in a virtual environment on my PC. But if you have a spare laptop around or whatsoever, you're free to use that as well. The specs that you need are not that high. It's actually pretty basic. The only thing that I would advise, though, is that you have enough storage space, since you are going to working with ISO files and WIM files, and you need to copy over files, and like Windows 11 WIM files are like 5 gig or so, and you need to extract it and blah blah blah. So storage is necessary. I wouldn't say you need extreme amount of storage, but make sure you have like 100 or 150 gigs or so you're not running out of space, and you don't have to worry about that. So preferably SSD. So sorry, my Spotify just went on. Siri, amazing. Okay. So make sure you have enough storage space, preferably SSD, a little bit fast storage, since you're going to do a whole lot of unpacking and packing, and that will just make the experience a whole lot better. So that's the biggest requirement to have. I will show you my system specs here. I have a Core i7 11 Gen, 2 processors assigned to the VM, and just 4 gig of RAM, and that's basically it's enough. It does the job. So that's fine. All right, so let's jump into it. We're gonna need some tools. So I will just go to Google I will go to google.nl, but of course you can go to google.com or whatsoever. I installed the English edition of Windows, so hopefully a lot of people can benefit from this video. And all right, download MDT UDK, the Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit. Yes, this is what we need. And we need the latest version of that. So basically right now we are at 22H2. You probably want to Google for that as well so that you get the latest version. Yep. So download and install the Windows AD key. Down to Windows, the Windows 11 version 22H2. Very important that you have the correct version that belongs to your Windows edition. My advice is install the latest Windows edition. Make sure that's completely up to date so that you can also install all the previous Windows editions until this edition. If you're going to install an earlier version of the ADK, it can be that you cannot make an image for the latest Windows version anymore. So always make sure, that's just a quick tip, make sure that it's the latest version that you can get so that you're sure that you can make images for all the operating systems out there based on Windows. Yeah, if you would do the 21H2, for example, if you want to make an image for a Windows 22H2 version, you could be in problems. So yeah, just make sure that the machine that you work on is completely updated so that you can also download the latest ADK version. Yeah, that's just a tip. Okay, we're going to download that. Yeah, you see that's downloaded. It's very quick. And what we need afterwards, we also need the Windows PE add-on for Windows ADK. Basically, that helps with building the environment, the pre-boot environment for Windows 11, and you need that for actually the imaging phase and stuff like that. So it's very important to have that as well. So I'm going to download that straight away. So I have them both. All right. I will go to my download folder. You see that it's a brand new OS because they're the only downloads that I have till now. So we're going to install it. First, the ADK. I use the regular install location. That's fine. I don't need anything fancy. Just works for me. If you want or if you like to have it on another location, feel free to do so. Just make sure that you keep a note where you install it because it would be advisable to install the PE setup in the same location. I keep everything at default. That's fine. I need 1.5 gigs. That's fine as well. I press next. Well, I don't want Microsoft to collect the insights. I press next. Yeah, yada, yada, yada. I accept. I leave all the defaults. Don't need any tinkering here or whatsoever. And press install. Yes, I allow to make changes. And we just let this one go. If it takes too long, I will skip through the end and we'll come back later. But I believe this doesn't really take that long to install. Okay, as you can see, the installation is done. No errors, no issues whatsoever. None is to be expected anyway. I've actually never seen this go wrong. So, hey, kudos to Microsoft in that sense. So, all right, let's close this one up. And then after that, like I told you, we also need to do the PE setup. I leave this one at default as well. It's a little bit, uses a little bit more disk space than the previous install. Well, that's fine. I keep these ones how they are as well. Also, everything default and press install. Yes, allow making changes. And then we're gonna install this as well. Yes, and here we are. This has been installed as well without any issues. So we can press close. So since we installed them both, we can now move forward installing the last Microsoft tool that we need for this, and that is called the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. If you search download a DT in Google, it's probably the first one. Yeah, this is the last version there is. It's rather old already. It's published in 2020, but hey, it still does the job. Basically, it was released in January 2019 already, but hey, it does the job. It's still supported. So let's move forward downloading it. Yeah, since we're using Windows 11, 64-bit operating system, we can use the 64-bit installer. Press next and download it. Okay, it has been downloaded. I can move here over to downloads, and you have the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. Just press install, press next to install, accept the license terms, yada yada yada. Next. Don't need to make any changes here, just default. I don't want to join the program. Next, and press install. Yes, we are allowed to make changes. Okay, so also the deployment toolkit has been downloaded. Now, one thing that I like to do after I've installed all those things, I like to go to control panel. I will actually do that because let's just, I want to show you everything. I just start typing control panel, and then the best match will show up. I'll open it. Then I will go to programs, uninstall a program. I'm actually not going to uninstall anything, but I just want to see the versions of the tools that are installed and what's mainly important, and what went wrong with me actually a couple of times already. And that was pretty odd to me because I used the same page to download the software as that I showed you, but for some reason the Windows Assessment Deployment Kit and the Windows Assessment PE did not contain the same version number. And then I had issues creating the ISO file. Actually, I didn't really have issues creating the ISO file, but the ISO file never installed. So I got errors during the installation phase on the notebook. So if you want to use this properly, make sure that the version numbers go inside. And as of now, these are the latest builds that are available. So that's correct. Yeah, like I told you, and this one is pretty old already, the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit version. So that will probably be the same. But again, if there comes a new update for Windows 11, there also is going to be a new update for both of these. So make sure that's the same. Then you know that you're set to go. You don't have to expect any issues from here on out. Okay, since we've installed all this, we also need another tool. And the other tool, basically, we're going to use that for getting the JSON file that we need, the JSON file that contains the autopilot configuration. And we're going to use the tool to inject drivers into the Windows image. Some people that have worked with Microsoft Deployment Toolkit before will probably know that you can inject drivers using Microsoft Deployment Toolkit as well. Um, for you guys that haven't seen it yet, I will actually start opening it. It's here recently added. It's called Deployment Workbench. That's part of the MDT installation that you just did. If it's not showing up here, start typing deployment and you'll probably find Deployment Workbench. And it's also in all apps, Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, Deployment Workbench. That's basically the only thing that we need. We don't use or touch any of the other stuff. So just to show you, press yes here. Just to show you how the tool looks. It looks really fancy, really modern and up to date. No, it really doesn't, but it doesn't matter. It does the job pretty well. I will not use it right now, but this is how it looks, and we're gonna start using it pretty soon. But from the deployment share part, there is a driver folder, but you will see that later on when I will show you later on. But we cannot actually use that. And that is because if you want to use the driver part of MDT, it's going to use the unattend.xml file. It's pretty technical, but we're going to come there a little bit later on in this video. But as soon as you're going to use that file, you're going to skip the out of the box experience, and also going to skip the autopilot configuration phase. So yeah, pretty sucks actually. I don't know why Microsoft hasn't made something that you can still use it to inject drivers and also use autopilot. But hey, maybe that will come in the future. But that's why we need another tool to inject drivers into the image, and use this tool in the end to build the ISO and also to select the correct deployment that you would like, and stuff like that. But we'll come to that later on. I will close it for now. Just move forward, starting with the tools that we need, so that we have everything set up and we can move on from there. Since I know that it's a PowerShell tool and we need PowerShell and we need scripting as well, I'm already going to start opening up PowerShell. Just type PowerShell. I choose run as administrator because we're going to install stuff and we definitely need admin rights for that. And I will start also by setting the execution policy. I will use tab. So probably execution. Yeah, set execution policy. And I will put it to unrestricted. What this basically does, geez, I keep saying basically, but what this does is that it allows you to run PowerShell scripts on your machine. It's not very advisable to do this in a production machine that you would use on a daily basis to set the execution policy to unrestricted. You can use other commands to, for example, bypass or whatsoever, so that you can run a one-time script and allow it for once. This sets it for every script that you're going to run from now on, that it's just unrestricted and no errors, and that scripts are just allowed to run. Doesn't matter the source where the script is coming from. So yeah, for if you have a separate machine for imaging stuff like that, like I have now, it's definitely not an issue to do this. But no, just that you know what you're doing and know that you put it open to run scripts without any warnings or stuff like that. So I do that. Well, the execution policy helps you protect from scripts that you do not trust. Changing the execution policy might expose you to the security risk described, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you can go to that link and see a description to what you're opening up to. Basically what I just told you, but hey, you can press Y here and enter, and then we're done. For now, I'm going to minimize this because I don't know the exact command to install the tool that we need. The tool that we are going to need is in the PowerShell gallery, and it's called Wimwitch. Yeah, I did not invent that name, but it's really a real powerful tool. Wimwitch 3.0 is not the latest, I know, but I'm going to click it anyway. And then I'm going to go to the latest version 3.4.5. And then this is the installation command. Part one, I must say, because I know that there will be a part two. But for now on, we're just going to copy this command. We're going to go back to PowerShell. I'm going to copy it and press enter. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, default is yes. Well, that's fine for me. I type Y anyway and press enter. That's good. NuGet provider is required. Yes, that's fine as well. Yes, yes. An untrusted repository. Now, for now, that's fine as well. Yes, and enter. Okay, and now it's installing Wimwitch. Well, if I'm going to run Wimwitch now, let's see what it does, because I know there is a phase 2. Wimwitch.ps1. Yeah, so this is basically an error. Wimwitch starting in C program file scripts, checking for installation status. Wimwitch does not appear to be installed in this location. Would you like to install Wimwitch here? No, I press no. Select an installation folder. Yes. So basically what we want is we want to install it, in my case, under the C drive. And it's fine. I just want to have a folder under the C drive called Wimwitch. Wimwitch. That's fine. I know what it is for. I know where to find it. Pretty simple. Wimwitch. Okay. Press OK. When after selecting Wimwitch, press OK. And it installs. Oh, that's pretty nice. So this was step 2 of installing. In the future, if you want to run Wimwitch, I'm just going to close PowerShell for now so that you can just see that. In the future, if you want to run Wimwitch, you're going to open PowerShell like we did before. Search PowerShell, run as administrator because you need administrative rights, because it's going to extract and does all kind of stuff, needs storage access. So you need that. You go to the installation folder where you've just installed Wimwitch. So I'm going to go 2 folders down. I'm in the root of C, and then I go cd Wimwitch. And I'm gonna search for the Wimwitch scripts. Press tab, and then it finds the Wimwitch. And then I press enter. And then it's doing some checks if you have enough storage, what toolings are installed. But you just let it run. The first time it takes a little bit longer. And after that, it starts Wimwitch. So we don't have to use it right now, but we have started it. This is the tool that we're going to use. This is where we're going to select the ISO later on, and this is the part where you can inject drivers, part where you can build the Wim file eventually that we need to load into MDT. Yeah, this is the tool that we're gonna need later on to create everything that we want to create. Okay, I'm gonna close down, and I'm gonna close PowerShell for now as well, since we have the necessary tools. This is a huge step, guys. So if you want to take a drink, want to take a coffee, or need a little rest, take it now, because we still have a long way to go. And we continue on with the download of the ISO file. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to download the original ISO file from the Microsoft site. I go back to Google and download Windows 11. There is a gotcha here because for Windows 11, there isn't really a big gotcha anymore. But if you want to download Windows 10, there is. For example, if you Google download Windows 10 and you go to the Microsoft site, you don't see an option to download the ISO file. You only see a help program that I can download. Sorry, it's in Dutch, guys. It sees that I'm from. Well, let's see what we translated. Oh, awesome, we translate to English. Okay, so you can download a tool, and this tool can actually build an ISO for you. But there's a big catch because it uses not the original Wim formatting, but ESD, and you cannot load ESD in Wimwitch, and doesn't recognize all that stuff. So for Windows 10, it's a little bit more hassle to get the correct ISO file. I also need to say that this is the ISO file for the OEM installations. So this is okay if your device comes with a license. So for example, you buy a device that comes with Windows 10 Pro or Windows 11 Pro, then I would definitely recommend you to download the ISO file from here, because then it does the activation from the BIOS where you have the license key. If your device does not come with a Windows license, but you use volume licensing or whatsoever, don't download the ISO from here, but go to the volume license center and download the ISO files from there. I must say that if you use volume licensing, you're in luck, because it makes your life a hell lot of easier, because you can log into that portal and you can search for any ISO that you need, any Windows version that you need, and you can just press download and you have the correct ISO file. If you don't, it's a little bit more complicated if you want to use Windows 10, because basically you cannot use this tool because it's useless. There are some tools around that can convert the ESD and convert it to Wim, and I didn't even look into that. I'm sure that there are some good tools that can do that, but that makes it more complicated. If you want to download the original Windows 10 ISO file that has the correct formatting inside, the best solution that I can give to you is that you are either going to use a Mac or a Linux system. It can be a virtual machine or it can be a physical machine. Yes, it cannot be Windows OS. Search for download Windows 10, click on the same link, and then you can download the ISO file. So from another OS, you can easily download the ISO file in the correct formatting, and then later on copy it over the USB flash drive or whatsoever, and then you have the Windows 10 file that you need. So same link, different operating system, and then you have the option to download the ISO file. Luckily, from Windows 11 on, and since I told you earlier on in the video, we are going to use Windows 11, thank God. It makes our life a little bit more easy, because you can just go to the link and you have the option to download the ISO file. You don't need to use the installation assistant or tools or whatsoever. You can just download the Windows 11 disk image, and you can select, you basically have one option. You can press download, and in the next question, I believe it's also going to ask you the language that you want to use. Yeah, the product language. Yeah, I mainly use Dutch, but since I'm from the Netherlands, but you have English, you have all the languages that you want. Press confirm, and you can download the ISO image that you can use for building the image. Again, this is for the OEM, so this is if your product came with a license. If you want to use volume licensing, don't download from here, because that's not going to work correctly. Download the version from the volume license center. Okay. What we are going to do, I already have the ISO actually, but okay, just for demo purposes, I'm going to download this Windows 11 version. I'm gonna press download. Well, English International is fine, I guess. I'm gonna press confirm. Okay, and I get a link that's valid for 24 hours. Okay, that's fine, I guess. 64-bit download. Yep. Okay, and it's gonna download, and it's gonna take like a few minutes. It's pretty fast, but I'm gonna pause the video anyway. As soon as it's downloaded, we will continue. Okay, so there we are. The download is ready. As you can see, I have the ISO file Windows 11 English International Edition in the downloads folder. So this is just the plain image, the simple, this is just the normal image provided by Microsoft, no bloatware inside, just as you expect. But of course, this has the regular installer where you need to select drive you want to install it, which language do you want to install, do you have a license key, and all sorts of questions that you don't want to answer because it costs time. So we are going to edit this image, and as an extra we also want to include drivers in this image since we want to be having the devices in a ready state. As soon as it's deployed, um, we can deliver it to our end users if we want. They can log in using their username password from the Azure AD site. And as soon as they do that, the device will continue into the enrollment or status enrollment page, just how, yeah, depends on how you've set it up in Intune. Before we're actually going to do some editing, let me amuse you for a second here. I don't have any drivers installed yet. Uh, we don't actually have any. I don't know why I see messy here. I don't like it. Okay. So before we're going to download and install any drivers, I want to stay on this topic for a little while because there are a few methods to get your drivers, and I will explain you a few methods. The most easy method, by all means, is search the model type of your device where you want the drivers from and download them from the website of the supplier. In that sense, the brand of the laptop. So if you have a Lenovo device, go to Lenovo support and download the drives from there. Um, but as you can see, if I let's go to Lenovo driver download. Okay, I open the site here. Well, it's I want drivers for PC. I'm actually not working on the product itself, so Detect will not do a lot. So I do a few PC support. So let's search PC support by model name that I have. Well, I have a model laying around here. I'm not going to use it for demo purposes because I don't have any good camera and it will be terrible to see. I will actually demo the solution in the end in a VM, but I am going to include drivers in the image so that you see the whole process. So I have a ThinkBook here. It's actually not the best possible model to show, but okay, I will show you anyway. I have a ThinkBook 15, ThinkBook 15, and it's an IIL. All right, so one way to do it is you search the type that you have, you go to downloads, it's gonna load, blah, blah, blah. Well, automatic I cannot do, so I need to choose the manual right now. And cookies, yeah, fine, cookies. I don't want to see this strange blue thing. Okay, so here we have all the drivers. So one way to do it, and actually the way that we need to do it right now, because this is not marked as an enterprise laptop, So we need to download drivers manually here to include in the image. So we're going to do that. But one way to do it as well, and the biggest brands that they have it, like Lenovo, HP, Microsoft. So if you have like a device that comes from a big brand and it's their business line, you can also download driver packages. And the way you search for those packages is if you look Lenovo in Lenovo SCCM. That is actually before Intune. It's the on-premises MDM solution that Microsoft provides, and they still call it SCCM driver packages. So you can search on SCCM driver, oh, driver with a V, drivers, Lenovo SCCM drivers. Okay. And what you can do here is you can, if you press on the link here, I hope this is the page. Yeah, this is the page. That's fine. Change to Netherlands. Oh, then the language goes Dutch, but okay, it doesn't matter. So you're here on the sports side, and you see all kind of devices listed here, and all kind of drivers that you can download. Um, we come across the difference between WinPE and driver packages. You will see the difference a little bit later on in the video. But what you can do here, you can download complete packages. Forget the WinPE 5 and WinPE 3.1. We're not even gonna touch that, and that's very legacy and very old. So don't even think about that. We use WinPE 11 in our demo, and well, if you have a Windows 10 version and you would follow along with this and you would do everything on Windows 10, you would have WinPE 10. So it's for everything it's the same. Doesn't matter. I mostly don't bother with the WinPE packages anyway. I mostly bother with the driver packages because that includes everything. So the cool thing about this is that if you search for, let's say you have an L14 Gen 3 model or an L15 Gen 3 model ordered for your company, you have like 30 or 40 models or maybe even 400 of them. And you need to get the drivers inserted in the Win image because you want to be sure that everything just works. As soon as it's installed, they can start using Teams, they can start do everything, and the camera is installed, and Wi-Fi works, and you want to have the drivers. So instead of going to this page and download each and every one by one, and to extract them one by one, it can be a little bit painful process. I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, we need to do it anyway because, like I said, I have a model laying around here. No, actually, we're not gonna do it. But I have a model laying around here. That's this model, the ThinkBook 15, and that's not considered an enterprise model. So they don't have an SCCM package for the one that I have here. Um, but for a lot of types, they do. And probably if you're gonna order one for business, it's a huge chance that it's one of these. And I would actually advise if you're still in the process of ordering something, order something off this list because first of all, you know that you have like an enterprise graded device. So yeah, it would give a good feeling, I guess, and a good sense that it's a good business device. And you can download all the drivers properly in one package and you have it all. It saves time and it's more easy. So it's just so you know that it exists and that you can download like it's just one download and you extract and you have all the drivers in one place. So that's really simple. I know that HP has as well. Microsoft has packages like this as well for their service line and for the so it makes life a lot easier. Um, since I'm gonna demo anyway in like a VM environment, we're just gonna pretend that we have an L14. All right, I showed you the L14. We're gonna pretend that we have an L14. So I'm gonna look for the L14. Yeah, we have the newest, the latest and greatest. We have the Gen 3 with all bells and whistles. So we're gonna download the 64-bit driver package. It's huge. I can tell you, it's a huge package. So we're gonna download that, and you're gonna see that it has a few packages available for every different Windows version. Well, so we're on 22H2. Um, they did not release a package for that version yet, um, but doesn't matter. In my experience, if you're like one or two versions behind, I even used the Windows 10 versions previously. 9 out of 10 times it works pretty fine. I must say this one is very generous on size as well. I have downloaded packages still 2 GB or so. This one is pretty good. 550 megabytes. That's fine, and this includes then all the drivers for that device type. So that's it's really awesome. I'm gonna press the download link, and it's gonna download the driver package. And in a few minutes, you have all the drivers that belong to that model. So it saves a lot of time that you don't have to do this. And oh yeah, I want to. Well, let's say for example, I need an audio driver, and then you need to download this package. And in this, it's pretty well, it's pretty okay. But I know from my time that I worked with HP, and then I searched the model, and then I went to downloads, and then suddenly for an audio driver, I had like 5 or 6 different choices to make, like an audio driver for Realtek, and they had Intel, and they had I don't know what they all had. So I didn't know which driver to take, and then you're gonna take them all anyway because you don't want to rule anything out, and it's just really cumbersome, and it can take a lot of time to do so. So keep in mind that there are SCCM packages, and we can use them really well with MDT as well. Um, yeah, to include those drivers. So we're still waiting on the download to finish, and then we're going to extract it, and we can use it. So we can insert those drivers into our Win image. Again, we're going to insert the drivers to this Windows image because we cannot use the inject function that is living inside of Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. Um, why? Because we need to remove the unattend.xml file. Otherwise, we will not go to the out of the box experience, and then it will skip the logging prompt for the autopilot enrollment. So that's why we need to use Wimwitch and do a little workaround. But that's fine. I'm going to show you right now how to do it. So the download is completed. For now, I will close the browser. And I have the download here. It's wow. I don't know why they use file names like this, but okay. I double click. And yes, I want to write. Please do. I accept the agreement, whatever the agreement is. I did not really read it. Maybe not that smart, but okay. Okay, so I don't really like the name. I mean, how the hell would I know what it is then? I would just create a folder in C drivers, SCCM. What did we download? L14, no, not 13, L14, Gen 3, I believe it was. So, okay, we know that's for the Lenovo L14 Gen 3. And I'll just press OK. Yeah, and extract. And it's gonna create a beautiful list of folders and extract all the drivers that are necessary. Now, let me take the time to, well, it's extracting anyway. Let me take the time that do our I must say that in company environments, not a lot of times, but sometimes if it's a real specific model, a real specific device, that it's hard to download drivers. I mean, I know for myself, I use a desktop here right now. I can't even download drivers through the manufacturer website. I mean, it's just not listed there. What you can do then is there are certain PowerShell commands that you can run to export drivers that are installed on a system, on a current running system. So what you could do is like, let's say you have ordered 50 devices and you cannot find any drivers of that. That's very unlikely. But if it would happen to you, just spin up one device, run through the Windows configuration screens, make sure that you reach the desktop. And then from that desktop, you can run the command. And it's a big test for me as well if I still know it out of my head. One sec, I will start PowerShell. And what you could do is run the command export Windows driver. Yes. And then I believe you need to do online. And then the path where you want to save it. So let's see, can we do it? Can we do it even a little bit more? Yeah, so okay. This is maybe easier. So we can see, hopefully, no, we don't see an example that's sad, but anyway, the syntax is export Windows driver, then the path, and then online. So it would look at this. No, oh, sorry that I'm struggling here, guys, typing it out. So path. Let's say you've created a folder temp c temp on. So this would make an export of all your third-party drivers in the C temp folder of the current running system. If you run this, you will have all the drivers. There is a downside in using that, and it's that it doesn't have a 100% score after embedding it to your image. I have had some hits and misses. Um, it will probably help you through uh, good enough. So let's say that it detects like 60 or 70% of the hardware and the other doesn't, and the other will come down with Windows updates on the device later on. But do know that, yeah, test it very well and make sure that this gives you at least the minimum that you need. So, for example, Wi-Fi and stuff like that, so that the connectivity works and that you at least can move forward in enrolling those devices. I've had some hit and misses depending on the type of machine that you're using. So, but know that it exists. So this would export all the third-party drivers currently installed on your system to the ctemp folder. If you get an error message, you probably haven't created the folder yet. So first create the folder, then run the command. Okay. So just a quick side note. Luckily, we don't need it. We have a Lenovo, and Lenovo have their stuff in order, and you can just download this stuff right off from their website. And as you see, we have extracted the drivers right here, and it creates beautiful folders with drivers. So, okay. So this is step one. Now we're gonna start Wimwitch, and Wimwitch. No, don't we cannot start it from here. We need to start Wimwitch from here. Yes. Okay. You see that it does some checks, plenty of HDD space available, and 64-bit PowerShell session, currently installed, blah, blah, blah. It does miss some modules still, but it's going to download them on a later stage. But I'm going to show you that. Because what we are going to need, and let's actually start with that. Before we're going to do anything with the Wim, in a later stage, we want to deploy the Autopilot Profile. Um, Now, sure, there are some commands that you can run, and you can download the Autopilot JSON file. And sure, you don't have to use Wimwitch. I mean, Wimwitch is just a GUI, just a front end through a whole lot of DISM commands that you can run through the to the image. So if you want to do it by hand and you want to run DISM commands, yeah, please be my guest. I think it's a whole lot easier to use Wimwitch, and I think it's an awesome tool. It saves you a lot of time, and actually, it also helps out to have, I guess, a little bit graphical interface and to see what you're actually doing, and not like think, oh, and where did I save that Wim file, and where is the Wim file mounted at this moment, and yeah, I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer to use this tool, but I think it depends on every person. And also a side note, and but I will show you that later on as well. If you do stuff in this GUI, you actually see stuff happening here in the PowerShell window. So basically, you see what's happening here when you change things around here, and when you actually make the definitive Wim file as well. So it's a pretty neat tool. I would definitely advise you to use this. But for now on, let's get the Autopilot profile. To do that, we click on Retrieve Profile right here. And what that basically does is we have a new machine. So it's going to say to us, I know that already, that we miss some PowerShell modules, and it's going to ask if we want to have it installed. And the sad thing is, after the install, we'll probably ask for a reboot of the PowerShell window as well. But we're going to do it because we need it anyway. So I'm going to click on Retrieve Profile. And it says, okay, the HRD module is not installed. Installing now. Okay, that's awesome. I don't even have to approve it. It's installing it anyway. And the Windows Autopilot module is not installed. Also going to install. So this is what I was talking about. As soon as you do something here in the GUI, you actually see stuff happening here in the PowerShell window. So that's pretty cool, if you ask me. Sometimes you also think like, hey, is it doing something? And you actually see that some stuff is popping up, and here the cursor is, and you don't see any drive letters. So you know that actually something is going on, something is happening. So that's also nice to know. So I just need to wait a little bit. So yeah, so here it is. Would you like to update the Windows Autopilot Intune module to version 5.0 now? Well, sure, let's do that. Okay, so here we have the prompt. I know that because I've went through this like last week or so. Yeah, so it needs to close and PowerShell needs to be restarted. Okay, it's closed. Let's just restart PowerShell as well, just to be sure that everything will be loaded up correctly and that we have stuff that we need. Run as administrator. Yes, yes, that's all fine by me. Okay, then we go back to Wimwitch. Enter. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we are again. So, okay, we have all the modules. We updated the stuff that we need. Okay. So let's get the Autopilot configuration file so that we have that. Let's press retrieve, and stuff is happening, and no more warnings. Yes. So what it's asking you to do right now, it's asking you to log in to your tenant. So to log in to your Microsoft 365 tenant, um, and you need to have like the privileges to download the JSON file as well. I did not check exactly which privileges you need. I think Intune administrator would be enough. Uh, I have global admin, so I don't have any issues getting it down anyway. But I think if you are Intune admin, you should have enough rights to download this file as well. I'm going to log into my test tenant. Um, yeah, that should be it. Oh, yeah, password. I hope I still remember that. Yeah, that's typical me. Bear with me, guys. I'm sure we'll have it. Wow. I should update my password. Okay, so at this moment I have two profiles in my test tenant, and that's the Autopilot Azure AD and the Win10 Autopilot Hybrid Join. Um, like I said, it's a test tenant. I am not completely sure what is the difference about those two tenants. You can see some basic information here. Um, this one, for example, has a device template connected to it. So every machine that's enrolled through this Autopilot Azure AD profile gets a device name that starts with CB, and then it gets also like the serial number of the device. So we can actually test later on do the enrollment with this one, and you can see what it comes down to there. Yeah, and all the selections that have been made on the tenant in this profile are actually written here. So okay, for demo purposes, I will download only one. But in production environments, it can very well be. I work with clients that have up to 20 or so, or maybe even 30. That's okay. You can download them all one by one. Um, and I will show you how to implement that in a later stage. For demo purposes, I will just download this one and move forward with this. So press OK, and it's going to download the profile. And if you wonder, like, where is that profile saved then? That's in the Wimwitch folder in my C drive, where I actually installed Wimwitch, and it has an Autopilot folder as well. So it basically saves it here. It would be a wise idea, though, if you want to download more Autopilot profiles, if you're going to retrieve a new profile, move this one around somewhere else so you know um, which profile it is. And another tip that I want to give you, the name of this JSON file needs to stay the same. Don't edit this name because it will not have any effect anymore. It needs to be called autopilot configuration file.json. So if you move it around, if you have multiple profiles, maybe create a new folder, like new folder, blah, blah, and give it a name and drag and drop it there. And then for the next JSON file, do the same, do the same, do the same. So you still know what is the difference, but you manage the difference by folder name and not by file name. So it's just a quick advice that I want to give to you. We are just going to work with one, so that's fine. What we're not going to do, but if you really pay attention, you can also enable Autopilot from Wimwitch. What that basically does is then it's already going to embed the JSON file in the image, so we don't have to do it with MDT anymore. This is perfectly fine, and I use it for a lot of environments, and I could actually use it for my demo as well, but I don't want to do this. I want to give you the flexibility um, of having multiple options, because if I'm going to enable Autopilot and I'm going to select this profile, it's all well and good, but you don't have any choice anymore. Then for this Wim file, for this Windows installation file, you only have one Autopilot profile. So, and since we want to have probably the choice of having multiple Autopilot profiles and enrollments, let's not use this. So I'm going to disable Autopilot. Still don't like the fact that I enabled it before, so I don't really know how Wimwitch is going to react on this. So I'm going to close it just to be sure. Yeah, I'm going to clear screen and I'm going to start Wimwitch all over again, because I want to be sure that it's not going to embed any Autopilot configuration file in my image. I just want to use Wimwitch for the drivers. I just want to add the drivers. So again, I rebooted Autopilot. I did nothing. I just retrieved the profiles. You use Wimwitch to retrieve it. It's a hell lot of easier than typing out a lot of commands and running PowerShell scripts. And so my advice, use Wimwitch to retrieve all your Autopilot profiles. So after all that is done, you need to import a Windows ISO file before you can start editing. So we are going to select or download the Windows 11 file. That's this file. Select the items to import. Well, for normal image files, we're just bothering about the install.wim files. We do not bother with .NET binaries and upgrade packages and stuff like that. So we don't need to work with that. So name for the imported Wim. Well, demo Win 11 Wim. I don't know. Give it a beautiful name. I was never really a very huge star with naming conventions and stuff. You can see that here. But you can give it any name you like. And press the import button. So it's actually going to mount the ISO, and it's going to mount it to a location in the staging folder. And if you're wondering where the staging folder is, that is in here, the Wimwitch, and well, it has the name staging. Well, that's awesome. It's yeah, pretty simple, right? Okay. We do have to wait because this is a process that can take up to a couple of minutes, depending on how fast your machine is. Well, since we're using a VM with limited gig limited RAM, it is going to take a little bit of time. However, it says that importing is complete. So I guess we can, yeah, we can click on buttons. So that's good. Okay, so after you've done this and it says importing complete, go to the source Wim. So not the import Wim, but then go to source Wim, because we still have to select um, the recently imported Wim file. It automatically goes to the correct location. So you just have to press import and then press the file that we've just created, press open. And then it's going to ask you which version you want to add it. So since we are working in like a professional environment, I think you will never bother about the home editions, and the education editions I never worked with. So it's either pro or maybe even enterprise editions. So enterprise is not in this image. So it's pretty simple for us. It's option 6. It's the Windows 11 Pro. that we want to work with. And what this basically does is that it's going to delete the other versions as well from the final Wim image. So it basically only holds the Windows 11 Pro. When you do a normal Windows installation, it's going to ask you which edition do you want to install, blah 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 blah. So that question is already off the table since you're going to select that here. Okay, press OK. Okay, well, you see like a confirmation, it's Windows 11 Pro, which edition it is, which index. Okay, you don't really have to bother with this anymore. So that's basically what needs to be done in sense of loading the information. And now you're going to start adding stuff to it. So what we want to do is we want to add drivers. We want to make sure that all the third-party drivers, in our case, although we're not going to demo it, but in our case, we want to have the drivers that we just downloaded for the Lenovo model, the L14 or 15 Gen 3, I believe. So we want to enable the driver injection, and we want to select the source. Um, the first thing that I asked myself when I saw this tool is this recursive or do I need to select every folder one by one for it to pick up the drivers? I can reassure you and set your mind at ease and at rest, it's recursive. So if you take the top folder, it will scan through all the folders that are below that for all drivers. So you basically just need to select one folder. You only select multiple folders, I guess, when you have like multiple models where you want to work with and you have multiple downloads, then you can select more about one. Again, if you do it a little bit smart, you can just select the SCCM folder, then I guess where all the underlying models are, and then you'll also only have to select one folder here. But it's all up to you. So I go to this PC, C drive, drivers, and here it is. Here's my model name. I can select that. And like I told you, if you have like multiple models, you just select the SCCM and then it takes all the drivers anyway. But for now, let's take the L14 Gen 3 folder, bump, and it's going to pick up all the drivers that I have from there. But again, we don't really have to bother with all the other stuff. I mean, that's if you want to do some reading on that, I suppose you can find that on the site. If you Google Wimwitch, it has some pretty useful information. And I really believe that's a powerful tool. You can really do a lot. You can even import like extra updates to images and stuff like that. So it is a real nice tool. But for now, we just inject the drivers and then we click on Make It So. And what it does is it's going to do all the magic and then it's going to create a Wim in this location. And that's completed. And that will be a Wim completely with embedded drivers and such. You can even create an ISO. We don't need it, but if you would like, you can create an ISO. I did have some hit and miss here as well. Since we're working with already new image, I got an error message that it couldn't create an ISO yet. If you have an older image like Windows 10 or an older version of Windows 11, it works. So, but I have no need of creating an ISO in this sense. And if you follow this video along, you shouldn't need it neither. So, um, well, let's call it like demo Win 11. Yeah, that's fine. Demo Win 11. I mean, we don't have to make it more complicated than that, I guess. And then we're going to press Make It So. And now it's going to do some stuff. It's again going to copy source Wim to staging folder, and it's going to move around with files. It's probably also going to load here in the mount folder later on, and it's going to do some stuff. So it can edit the Wim file and embed the drivers. And you will, well, I will let the video run. Um, you will see later on that it's actually going to embed the drivers also to the image. I do want to show you that. And then, yeah, just wait from now on. So yeah, here you see it's deleting all the other additions that we did not select. So deleting Windows 11 Pro for workstations, deleting 11 Pro N, deleting Windows Education version. So you see that it's, yeah. So now it's mounting the Wim file. So yeah, you see it's a Wimwitch mount. Yeah, so actually this is all the contents of a Wim image. So that's basically here. And I believe if you're going to here, Windows, I don't know it by well, let me see. I do know it actually. I have it open here. Uh, So if you look at it, this is the contents of the Wim file, and if you go to provisioning autopilot, now we don't have access to this folder. I will not tinker with um, any writes right now, but this is actually where the JSON file comes in. But we're gonna do that later in NDT. But basically, if you would use the embed feature of Wimwitch, it would copy the JSON file in this folder, and later on it will write it to the Wim image. So this is just the Wim image extracted, and later on it will use all these files that are in here, and we'll create a beautiful new Wim image from that. So as you can see here, you see that it's applying the drivers. So it's actually applying the drivers to the mounted image that I've just showed you. So the mounted folders, it's embedding all those drivers in those folders. And then once that's been done, then it's going to close the mount, and then it's going to write all that stuff to a new Wim image file that we later on can use in MDT. So for now, I'm going to pause the video since this can take quite a while depending on how much stuff you're going to import, and it can take really up to 30 minutes or so depending on how much stuff you import. So I'm going to pause right now, and once it's ready I will be back. Okay, so here we are again. The job has just been completed. As you can see, I'm not lying. Just completed 1612. Job's done, and it took some time. It took like well over 15 minutes, but then the job is done. So basically, we can exit the application, and we can go to the completed WIMS folder. And there it is, fellows. Here we have a WIM file that is the Windows installation, including the drivers. So that's basically what we need. And there I go with my basically again. So, okay. From now on, we can continue our work in the deployment workbench, so in MDT, and we are going to do that. So I'm gonna fire up the deployment workbench. I'm gonna start it up. And first off, what we need to do is we need to create a deployment share. That's how it's called. So we're going to right click on deployment share, and we're going to say new deployment share, and we can give it any name that we want. You're probably just going to work with one share, but if you would be a really huge corporation, or you would be an intermediate company that serves a lot of other companies, I might see the need that you have different deployment share pods with different names and such. But for now, this is fine. Just press next. Okay, this is fine as well. Yeah, specify a descriptive name. This is fine as well. Okay. when performing deployments, the behavior of the deployment wizard can be customized by turning various wizard panes on or off. Okay, what we want to do, we want to turn everything off, because what we wanted to do in the end is stuff that we're going to define in certain files and certain locations. So we are not going to use this. So for now, deselect everything and press next. Okay, press next again, and it's going to create a deployment share. So what it's done now is, after you press finish, okay, yeah. So what it's done now, it actually has a deployment share for you. And you see a whole lot of folders. If you open it up, you see like application, operating systems, out-of-the-box drivers, well, a whole lot of stuff here. And it corresponds for a huge part to this folder, because it created a folder in the C drive, deployment share. We don't have access, we press continue, we're admin anyway, we can open it up. So here, what you see here is actually a copy of what lives inside here, and it actually has already some stuff here, control, it has some files, and we need to tinker with that a little bit. And I must say, it's MDT is a really nice program, but as you're going to see now, we're going to start configuring stuff. It's, yeah, it showed that it has been a product from a few years ago already, and again, it will show more that it's more of the same, that it's an old product in that sense. It doesn't feel very, how to say, well, it's not nice to configure. Let's say, but okay, we just have to sit through it, and we need to do it. So we are going to do it. Okay. What we need to do is a couple of things. First off, I'm going to start with the operating system that we have just built. Let's start off by that. Let's start importing that so that we have it here and we can start work with that. So let's right click on operating system. Let's do import operating system. And we want to import a custom image file because we've just created a custom Wim image file. Press next. We're going to browse to the location where we stored it. Well, in my case, it's C Wimwitch completed Wims and the demo win11.win. We're going to select that. We're going to open it up. You can choose to move the files to the deployment share instead of copying them. Well, again, that's why I opted to have enough storage so that we don't really have to worry about that. And it's nice to have copies. So for now, I just leave it at that. I want to have the copy as well, not altered. So maybe for future reference, we can still use it for something else. For now, I press next. Setup files are not needed. Default is fine. Destination directory name, I'll leave that as this as well. That's perfectly fine. Okay, press next to execute, and it's gonna import the operating system. This mostly goes pretty fast. It's not a very slow process. So we can stay online, let's say so, and work through this. In the meantime, I can start looking something up. Okay, and okay, perform operation. Okay, finish. Okay, I know that there is an issue with the MDT. Well, it's not really the MDT. Actually, it's an issue that has to do with the template that MDT provides in the install. And it also has to do with the AD key kit for Windows 11 22H2. There is a weird bug. I will post a link to the information so that you can browse through it. But it comes down to that it shows a pop-up once the ISO is ready, and once you boot off a client machine, it shows a very annoying pop-up. If you want to continue running a script, and then you need to choose yes or no. The deployment will still go fine, but if there are any errors, you cannot open the error box, and so you want to have this sorted. And to have this sorted, we need to go and open a folder here, um, and that's this folder. Again, I will post a link to this fix as well. It's in this folder, and there is a file called unattend PEX64. Basically, it's an XML file, and in combination of this with this AD key version, there is some issues with this file, and it needs to have different content in it. So what we're going to do is I am going to rename it, save it. It's not using this anymore. Yeah, and then I'm going to open a notepad. And I'm going to run it as admin. Well, it doesn't really matter, but okay, I will run it as admin because it cannot save directly in it anyway. And then I'm going to copy over the content that needs to be in this file. Hopefully, yeah, okay, do it. Yeah, there it is. So this is the content that needs to be in that file. Again, I will post a link to it so you don't have to type it all over, but this should be in it. And then we need to save it as the same name as this file was, excluding the back, of course. Save as, and we're going to use all files, and I will save to the desktop for now. And .xml, and save. All right, I'm gonna leave this open. Now I'm gonna put this down. So here's the new created file, and a copy and a paste. Continue. And there it is. So here's the new created file with the right content. So you don't get that error message popping up. Just a warning. I must say I found it out pretty quickly. Just a quick search on Google. 5 minutes later, I found out this issue. So it didn't take me a long time, but it's annoying. You got the ISO, you think, yeah, I'm ready to go, and you still get an error message. So save your time to do some other stuff. So okay. Now back to the deployment workbench. So the next step that we need to do is we actually need to do quite a lot still. But the main part that we need to create is we need to create let's see. We need to create a task sequence. So the task sequence can be created here. And that's gonna say, hey, we have like a task, and we want to install the OS to a specific partition, and we want to copy over some files that we need. So this is basically the engine that's gonna run all that stuff. So we're gonna create a new task sequence. You give the task sequence an ID. It can be a name, it can be a number. I just like to keep it simple. I give it a task ID of 1. I'm going to give it a name. And this name is also what you're going to see, that you need to choose when you are going to do the deployment. So make sure that it's a nice name, that it's don't write stuff that's for not meant for kids, let's say so. Okay, demo Windows 11 enrollment, whatever. If you want to work with different autopilot configurations, you will have different test sequences for every autopilot enrollment. So if for example, you have 5 autopilot profiles in Intune and you want to be able to enroll devices in all 5 of them, you will have 5 different task sequences. So my advice would be also in the task sequence name then to write the name of the autopilot profile. Since we are going to use this one autopilot profile, let's pretend our tenant has just only one autopilot profile. We don't need to do that. But if you would have, you would type the name of the autopilot profile in here. Okay. Let's continue. We're going to create a custom task sequence so that we can create everything from the ground up. Press next, and we're going to press next. And we're going to press finish. Oh, that wasn't that hard, huh? Now we have a task sequence that we can connect to the operating system, and we can actually start having some stuff going. All right. So for now, we are going to go to properties. We can leave all this stuff standard and default, and we go to task sequence. And we're going to remove because we don't need this. I don't know why it starts with install application, but we sure don't need it. Okay, so this interface is really, it doesn't feel, yeah, it feels like wonky at sometimes and like, did I make the edit? Or don't worry about it, it's normal. It's just how it is. We need to live with it, I guess. So the first step that we're going to add, and I'm going to add a link to the description of the video as well, where you can read through all the steps that are necessary, and yeah, you can copy and paste some information that you need. I must say that that works well, but I think it's nice that we have this video. I can really tell a little bit more about what each step is doing and why it is what it is, because from all the stuff that I found on the internet, it's pretty basic, and yeah, you follow stuff along, but sometimes you think, yeah, why am I actually doing that? So hopefully that would give you a little bit more insights as well. So the first thing that we are going to do is we need to put a step that actually gathers some information, and it gathers information from a file. And I'm going to call it gather local, because that's how they call it on the internet as well, at least on where I found some steps how to create this. So we're going to keep it like that. Then we're going to, and this actually is going to look for a rule file that lives inside of here. Control here, the custom settings. All right, we're going to copy paste that name, and boom, and it's an ini file. Okay, that's awesome. So it's going to look at that file for the input. Going to apply that. So that's our first step. Then we want to create a step that's actually going to format and partition the drives, because that's basically the first step that it needs to do, right? You need to have like a place to install the operating system on. So that's by disk, format and partition disk. We need to do this. Well, we don't need to do it twice, but my advice is to do it twice. And why? We're going to do one for old-fashioned BIOS, and we're going to do one for, yeah, sorry guys, I work with a German keyboard and a United States international layout, so sorry for my typos sometimes. It's not really coincide. Yeah, okay. So this is for an old-fashioned BIOS. If you still have an older system that you want to spin up, or VMs still use like the older type BIOS, you need this step so that it can format those disks correctly and to install correctly. And then the next step is for the UAV BIOS. So that's the newer type boot environment. So you need both steps separate, and they're a little bit different from each other. So we choose the disk number is 0. Standard MBR is fine. And then we're going to create some stuff. The first stuff that we are going to create is a partition called system reserved. It's a partition type primary. And we're going to use a specific size. And we're going to use a size of 499 megabytes. Going to use quick format. That's fine. And we're going to press OK. Okay. Then we're going to add the next step, and that is Windows. We're going to call it Windows, and it's a primary partition as well, and it's going to use 99% of the remaining space. It's also NTFS file system, quick format, and we are going to give it a variable of OS disk. Why are we going to do that? Why do we give this a variable? Because later on we're going to implement a step that installs the OS, and the OS, well, that step wants to know where to install the OS to, and we want to install it to this partition. So we're going to select OS disk there, and it installs to the correct partition. So that's that. Then we also have the recovery, and we're going to add that as well. And that's going to be a recovery partition. It's called recovery. We're going to use a percentage of the remaining free space, and we're going to use 100% of the remaining free space. It's also NTFS, and we're going to press OK. What I do think, though, is that we're going to edit this, and we want to make this a boot partition as well. Yes, that's what I forgot. So the first one should be a boot partition because it needs to be able to boot from a certain partition. Okay, so this is for the BIOS. What you can do is it's good to have them both, and you can disable the step or enable the step once necessary. Most of the time, you're not going to use the BIOS one because the recent hardware has recent BIOS, UEFI BIOS, so you won't need the older type. Um, but again, it's a good idea to create it, and then I will just disable this step, and I will apply it. So we have it there. So if we have some older hardware and we need to do spin up some, we need to create an ISO for that. We can do that very easy and very simple from the task sequence. So then I'm going to create the format and partition disk 11. Yeah, for the newer type. And we're gonna leave this to 0. We're gonna change this to GPT, and we're gonna create some stuff here. The first one is AFI, and we're gonna call that boot. And it's gonna use a specific size as well of 499 megabytes. It is a FAT32, FAT32 file system. We can use quick format and make sure that make this a boot position is selected. Okay. And we're going to create the second one that is called MSR. We don't have to give a partition name here. Just make sure that it's 128 megabytes, not gigabytes, megabytes. Press OK. Then we have another partition that's called Windows. This is where we do the install on. It's a primary partition. We're going to use 99% of the remaining disk space. Why do we use percentages here and not specific sizes here? Because your hardware can have specific SSD sizes or whatsoever, and you want to utilize all the remaining disk space. So it's a better idea to use percentage here. It is NTFS file system. We can use quick format, and the variable here is OS disk as well. Okay. And we're going to add a last partition here, and that is going to be a recovery partition. We're going to call it recovery. And we're also going to use 100% of the remaining disk space. That is file system NTFS. Quick format is fine. Okay. And that is how it is. Okay, we created this one as well. Okay. So what we need now we need to add, let me see how much time we have. Yeah, we still have a couple of minutes recording time left. Now let's add the next step, and it is a command line step. And that command line step is going to copy over some scripts that we need. And basically the content of the script is this. I do copy and paste it from another document, and just to make sure that I will just retype those. Yeah, that looks a lot better. So this is basically what needs to be in there, and I'm going to call this copy scripts. Copy scripts, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we don't need any other information, just the command line, and press apply. And then we need to configure. Also a command line, we call it configure. Configure, and this is used to use the built-in features of MDT. So we need this step. We have it. Apply. And then we're going to install the operating system. We go to images, install operating system, and we need to browse to the OS that we want to install. So that's this one. Press OK. And here we need to specific logical. No, not logical drive letter. Logical drive letter stored in a variable we need to choose here. And we're going to type in the OS disk variable that will be created using this format and partition disk. And we're going to press apply. So here it's basically going to install the operating system. This is where the magic happens, where it's installing a Wim file that we've created via Wimwitch, including the drivers. As you can see here, it has a step of injecting drivers, inject drivers, but that will not work since I told a couple of times before, we do need to remove the unattend.xml file. Otherwise, it will not go to the out-of-box experience. Okay. So what we need to do now, we also want to apply the Autopilot configuration file. What we can do is we can create in the script location. So go to deployment share scripts, create a new folder. You can give it any name. Just make sure that it's logic for you. I mean, I would give the name of the Autopilot profile. So you can go into your tenant, you can go into Endpoint Manager, and you can say, okay, what kind of Autopilot profiles do I have? You can give it a name. Let's say so you have Windows. I don't know, Windows uh, pilot environment. I don't know. Give it a name. Make sure that it's logic for you, and create as many folders that you need. I mean, if you have 5 Autopilot profiles, create 5 folders and put the JSON files in the corresponding folders here. Since I just use one, I'm just going to use one, and I'm going to call it Autopilot default. Why? Just because I can do that. It doesn't matter what name you give it. I give it Autopilot default. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to open up a new file explorer here. I'm going to go to this PC, C drive, and I am going to copy over from Wimwitch Autopilot. I'm going to copy over this file to this location. So as you can see, the files here in the deployment share scripts Autopilot default folder. And again, if you have multiple Autopilot configuration files, create multiple folders here with corresponding names and dump the Autopilot configuration file.json file in there that corresponds to the folder name. Again, this file name cannot be edited. It needs to be this name, otherwise you're gonna have some issues. So I would advise, well, you can have some issues. It's just plain and simple not gonna work. So it needs to have the exact name that's here. Of course, you can do some tinkering with the copy script, maybe, but again, I think this is easier. Just make sure you have the folder names corresponding to what you need, and then you're good to go. So I would close down this. We don't need it for now. Yeah, this is what I mean by sometimes a little bit like, I saved it, I pressed apply, and why is it still giving me the red cross here? It's fine. Just as soon as you press add, this will turn to a green checkbox. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It doesn't feel right, but okay, it works. Again, we go to a run command line, and what we're gonna copy over there is copy. We're gonna add. We're gonna do run command line. See, now it's green again, so that's fine. We're gonna call this apply autopilot. Apply autopilot. That's fine. Yeah, you can type profile or whatsoever what you want, but apply autopilot is enough for me. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna say, okay, in the script root, this is the script root. That's how it's called. We go to autopilot default, autopilot default. Oh, here we have the autopilot configuration file, the JSON. Okay, what we're gonna do with that file? Okay, we're gonna copy it to the OS disk. No, that's the C drive, right? Windows, Provisioning, Autopilot folder. That's the folder that I showed you a while back. Once we were working with the image in Wimwitch, where the configuration file needs to be set and where it needs to live so that it can enroll into Autopilot via client side, and you don't need to work with hash files and making them known in Intune before you go. So yeah, that's it. You can press apply. So it does that as well. And now, and that's the important step, now we also need to make sure that the unattended file gets deleted. And that's why we cannot use the inject drivers from the MDT, because it needs to be deleted. Otherwise, it will not read the Autopilot configuration JSON file, and you cannot enroll into Autopilot. So the next step, also a command line, and we call that delete unattended. I hope I wrote it correct, because unattended, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. And what we do is we copy paste this in there. So what it does is it's gonna do a delete OS disk C Windows Panther unattended XML. So that's what it does. It removes the unattended file. Press apply. Okay. Okay. What we need here is we need a step, and that's called setup complete. Run the command line. Setup complete. And since we're a little bit tinkering with MDT and we use it a little bit not the way that's intended, because we want that autopilot, we also need like a custom-made script that does some cleanup work, so that yeah, we make sure that MDT still functions and works. See it as a small workaround so that we can use this. So what we need is we need to create a file that's called setupcomplete.cmd in also the autopilot default. You can also do it in the script root. I think it would actually be better to do it in the script root folder if you have multiple autopilot profiles. But it doesn't really matter. So in our case, we need to create a CMD file. And again, I'm gonna paste a link where you can find all this information. So you don't have to type all this information. But basically, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna open up a notepad, and let's run it as admin so we can write to a little bit more locations is that we normally can. And this is the content. So it does some cleanup work, workarounds for incorrectly registered TS environments. It removes some registry key and some stuff so that we can trick MDT into like, yeah, everything is going well. We're going to save it. We're going to save it as a CMD file, and we're going to save it into this PC C drive deployment share. We go to scripts, autopilot default in this case, and then we're going to call it setupcomplete.cmd, since that's what we're referring to. Setupcomplete.cmd. Okay, save. Okay, the file is there, the content is there. setup complete.cmd. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, we're going to apply this as well. And then the last step is actually we've done everything now. We installed the OS, we applied the autopilot, we deleted the unattend, we did some cleanup into tricking and we did that everything is fine. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do a restart computer. We don't have to rename anything here. We just wanted to reboot and boot to the OS. Apply. So basically, these are the steps involved in creating, the complete install. Again, you would probably need to skip through these two steps. Whether it's an older type of BIOS or a newer type of BIOS, like you can see under the options, you can disable the step. For now, I disabled that one, the older type, and left the newer type on. But you can skip. I believe my virtualization software where I'm going to install actually uses older type, so I might be able to disable this step, and I might be able to enable this one. So yeah, let's see if that goes. I actually never done that, so it's trial and error live on the go. But again, make sure that one of them is disabled. Otherwise, it's gonna format a couple of times, and yeah, I'm sure that's not the best stuff that can happen. Okay, apply. What we need now is that although I see in every documentation that it should create in the captures folder, no, not captures folder, in the control folder. This is actually the folder that corresponds to our test sequence. So we gave our test sequence an ID of 1, as you still remember. So we see a folder named 1. And there actually lives a file inside here. But I also expect to have the unattend.xml file here. The unattend, yes, that's the unattend that corresponds to this step that we want to delete that unattend file. But before we can delete that unattend file, it first needs to copy over the unattend file, and then we can only delete it. So, and actually to copy the unattend file is actually a default step in the install operating system. So we need to have an unattend.xml file, but we don't have it. So how about we're going to create this? There are two things that you can do, but one works best. One thing I've done in a couple of deployments is I go to Notepad, I create an empty file, I call it unattend.xml and dump it here. But I've had a sort of hit and miss with that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So if I want to be sure that it works, I can go from here to OS info. Oh wow, this test sequence doesn't install an operating system. I think we first need to save it and then reopen it. Properties, OS info. Yeah, that's better. Okay, what we can do is we can press the edit unattend.xml. We don't have an edit unattend.xml, but somehow we can edit. Okay, well, we can press this, and then it's going to process. It's going to read the steps in the test sequence. It's going to read the OS, and it can take quite some time. It's also one show. Like this could take a long time. I know that it takes a long time. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes or so on my system. So I'm going to pause the video, and once this is done, I'll be right back. Okay, and we are back. And as we just had those 15 to 20 minutes wait, I realized myself that it's starting to get a long video. But again, I think it can help you or your company out for a great deal. and the end result is really awesome. So I hope you stick with me and we go further. Um, this is fine. I mean, this is what happens after those 20 minutes. Just press OK, and it's fine. Basically, it tells you, there we go with basically again, but it tells you that you don't have an unattended file here in your one folder, and that's correct. It doesn't have it there. It should have it there. I read through the documentation, it should be created, but it doesn't. So I don't know why. But what we are going to do right now is after we generated it, we're going to save it in this location. So we're going to go File, Save Answer File As, and we're going to browse to that location. So we're going to this PC, the C drive, deployment share. We're going to go to Control. We're going to go to the one folder, and we're going to save it here. But we're not going to save it as untitled. No, we're going to save it as unattended, because that's the file that they're looking for, unattend.xml. Um, so we're going to save it as that file. We're going to save it here. And now we do have an unattend.xml file. And we can close out of this. Here's the file. It's a valid file, valid format, no errors there. You know what happens if you open it in the browser? Yeah, that's fine. It doesn't have any style information with it, but it does contain all the information that it needs. So that's good. MDT will not make any problems of it. It will copy it over to the Windows OS, and then it will just remove it in the task sequence step that we have provided. So that's an extra step that we need to do. Okay, so actually we are really far down the road. We made some good progress here. Um, what we are going to do right now is that we need to brush up on some ini files and some stuff, because as you can remember, the first step in here is that we're going to gather some information. If we go back to properties and we go to task sequence, we are going to gather information from the custom settings.ini file, and that lives here. To this PC, let's see, deployment share, control, custom settings.ini. So let's open that up with Notepad, and you actually see that it consists of some information. We are going to edit that information. And again, these steps are, I will put a link to there, and also kudos to the guy that figured all this stuff out and made it available for all of us. So that's really awesome. I made some few adjustments to the user locale and the input locale. You can just find what is from your region and stuff. I based it on the Netherlands, but it comes down to the same input as on that form. I will copy paste that information right now. Yeah. Okay. Okay, there it is. whole lot of information. Here basically says that I want to skip all kind of questions and I just want to move forward with the install, the time zone, West Europe Standard Time, the system locale, the user locale. So all that information is there. Okay, but you can use the one from the form as well. That's no biggie. I just move it up a little bit. So okay, file save. So this one is really important. I also like to edit the bootstrap file. Not sure if it's really needed, but I really don't want. We'll try to find this one. Skip BDD welcome. This is actually a welcome screen that you get once you boot off the USB flash drive. I want to make 100% sure that I'm not going to get that. So I'm also going to edit it here. File, save. Okay, I have it here as well. Okay. And that's it, guys. So we have this and this and this. Okay. Now, I told you that we're not going to tinker with drivers, so we're not going to use drivers from here. But there is a but. Since you're going to boot to a very simplistic Windows environment to do the installation, and that simplistic environment needs to be able to find your hardware, you do want to have a couple of drivers in there. It needs to be able to find your storage, and it needs to be able to find maybe network if you're going to use a Pixie boot environment like Windows deployment services. So basically, what I'm going to do, I'm going to import the drivers anyhow. I'm gonna create a folder because it's not really necessary, but I like to have it like I believe we used L14 Gen 3. I like to have a little bit organized. So at least I have like a folder name here. I'm going to import drivers that I downloaded before. So they are on the C drivers and this one. Yeah, okay. I'm going to import stuff anyway. I don't have to do this. Just press next. It's is going to import a whole bunch of drivers, but in the settings anyway, or maybe we come down to that later on, but in the settings anyway, it's going to say that in the Windows PE environment, it only wants to import network and storage drivers. So it's going to look in all these drivers that are imported only for storage and network drivers. So but it's a whole lot easier than figuring out every driver one by one. So I'm just going to import a whole lot. So there's a difference here. So these drivers are not used for the end products. These drivers are only used for the few minutes that you're inside the deployment phase. And the deployment phase needs to have the correct storage drivers to be able to find your hard drive and stuff like that. And 9 out of 10 times, they're already there, but you want to be sure that it's 100% hit. So my advice is for every model that you are going to use, and for every model that you want to image, you want to import the drivers here. So as you can see, the process has been completed. It does give you some warnings. Actually, all the times that I see warnings, it's about that it doesn't support the x86 platform. Well, we don't care about 32-bit anyway these days, I guess. So that's fine. Just press finish, and then you see it imported all the drivers in there. So you know for sure that you can roll out this machine properly. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we have all our stuff here, and we're going to update the deployment share. We want to actually start creating the stuff that we can write to the ISO later on. But before you update the deployment share, make sure you go to Properties and make sure that platform supported is only x64. Deselect x86 since that will give a lot of problems on Windows 11 AD key, and it's I believe it's not possible even on 11 anymore. So if you need to support x86, so 32-bit OS, you really need to stick to Windows 10. Yeah, it is for us. It's not necessary. So make sure, and then press OK and go up. Then do update deployment share. And since we made a lot of rigorous changes, and since the first time we done this, we do completely regenerate the boot images, and we press next. And now it's gonna run some stuff. It takes a couple of minutes, and it's actually gonna create the boot environment for you. It's going to inject the necessary drivers, so the storage drivers and the video drivers that you have added, so that it can can find storage device for the installation. So this can take like not even that long. It's mostly like 1 or 2 minutes or so, and then that's done. Yeah, so once it's done, I will be back at you and we continue. So once that's done, press finish, and you've done updating that. And after that, we can move forward in creating the boot media. And that's that's where it's all comes down to. That's what we want to create, and that's what we want to have. So without further ado, we go further and open up advanced configuration, open up media, and right click. Nope, right click here then I guess. Yeah, right click media and press new media. Okay, this one is rather important, a media path. Since we're also busy with drivers, and since it needs to build some stuff and whatsoever, it's important to keep a short media path. If you're going to keep a long media path, you will hit like character limits and stuff and errors into building the final ISO. So my suggestion would be to create a folder in the C root, and that's also what I'm going to do right now, new folder, and I call it MDT ISO. I actually always keep the same name, but you can also call it ISO or MDT or whatsoever, but I just like to keep it short and in the root, so your shirt can create all the stuff that it needs to create. And this is actually where your final product will be placed. This is where we have been working hard for today, or maybe even over a couple of days if you follow this video along. So we want to select everything that we've built, everything included. That's fine. Next, and press next again, and press finish. It actually hasn't done it yet. So if you think to see something here, yeah, you see some basic content folders, but you don't see the ISO yet. What you need to do is right click on media. First of all, we go to properties, and we don't want to generate an x86 boot image. So this one we're going to deselect. We're going to press apply. Then we're going to go to rules, and we are going to update the rules as well. And again, a link to the information will be pasted in the description as well. And I will copy my information into this. up, and paste. And one step that's very, very important, otherwise you're gonna have some issues. Well, not really issues, but an annoying pop-up every time that you insert the USB disk, and you don't want that. After pressing apply, edit the bootstrap.ini, and under default, set the skip BDD welcome message to yes, so we don't have that annoying pop-up. All right, file, save. Oh yes. Yes, I actually forgot a very important step that we need to take. Um, there is a certain issue with the product, and that issue is it's actually at two locations, because if you want to edit stuff here, and basically sometimes you want to look into this tab as well, if you open that, it's going to give you an error. And it's going to say unload the snap-in and our report is error to Microsoft, but basically you cannot edit stuff here, and that's really annoying, because actually I also want to show some stuff here as well, and maybe to edit some stuff. So to get around this error, we need to create a folder. I'll also paste like a solution to this under the video. Basically, it needs to create a folder somewhere here. Really annoying that it's not. Yeah, okay, that sucks. I think because we haven't opened it as admin, and we should be doing it as admin. Yep, there we go. Yeah, we need to create a folder. The MDT expects to have a folder there. Although we deselected x86, it still expects the folder to live there. Otherwise, it will throw all these errors at you. As soon as it throws all these errors at you, it's like completely non-responsive, and you need to go to the task manager and close the environment here. Yeah, it's annoying. Once you do that, that issue is also resolved. So there are two issues with the product in that sense. So you need to have that folder created. And at the complete beginning of the video, I showed you that, well, not the beginning of the video, but of MDT part, I showed you that you need to create a new template file. If you solve those issues, then you're good to go. And that has to do with the Windows 11 AD key 2022 H2 version in combination with the MDT. So if you have another version, it might be that you don't have these issues at all. But if you have them, then those should be your solutions. So yeah, so like I can open this stuff right now, and that's awesome. So I can also see all this stuff. I want to include only drives of the following type. Well, we've done that, but we can edit here stuff. We don't need to edit stuff right now, but we can. So that's good. However, we do, where we were actually at the media creation. So we do need to edit stuff here. So if we go to properties, we need to deselect the x86, make sure that only the x64 is checked. In the rules, well, I already showed you, copy paste the information that is necessary and make sure that this is also there. The skip BDD welcome is yes in the bootstrap.ini file. Then at the Windows PE tab, we don't have to do a lot. It's actually all well and good. Since we don't need any additional drivers, we only need network drives and mass storage drivers included in the media as well. So we don't have to edit stuff here, but if you want, you can. For example, here's the custom background. It would be nice maybe to have a custom background. maybe of some beautiful holiday location or whatsoever, or maybe you want your company background. You can do that here. So you can edit yeah, that location, press apply, and then it will be embedded in the final solution. So you will have your own background image. That would be nice. So x86, we don't do anything with this. So it's all x64. So press apply. Okay, so we've done the editing and all the other parts. So right now we can right click on the media. We can press update media content. And this is basically what we wanted to do like all day long. We want to create the final ISO, and that's what this process is going to do. It's going to create the final ISO. It's going to create a bootable ISO that you can use to format your drives, to install a clean Windows 11 version with the Autopilot enrollment profile included and with the drivers included. That's what this part is going to do. It's going to create the ISO file in our case in the MDT ISO location that we've created. Again, remember to make a short location, preferably in the root, so that you're sure that it can create everything. And yeah, in just a couple of minutes here, there will be an ISO, and you can take that ISO to a USB disk, which I'm going to show you how to do that as well. Or you can take the ISO to any other deployment solutions in the sense of network booting or whatsoever. Do remember that Windows 11 uses like secure boot, and a lot of devices uses secure boot. So make sure that your Pixie boot environment supports secure boot. Otherwise, you need to go to the BIOS of your device. You need to disable it, and it's also a hassle and not really really nice. If you use Windows deployment services, I believe that supports secure boot, and you can just use that. Um, but yeah, it's a nice free tool, Windows deployment services, uh, but it does require you to have like Active Directory, and you need to have local infrastructure for Windows deployment services to do and to have. So I think the USB option is way less rigorous in that sense, and it's easier. Um, yeah, but again, if you want to go the Windows deployment services route, be my guest. Um, you can take that and use it there if you want. As you can see, it's injecting drivers, injected a few drivers for the storage and for the network. And now it's unmounting the Wim file, so it's almost ready, and we almost have a ISO file that we can use. Um, Yeah, so I'm gonna let this run. I'll be back at you once this has been done. So, and a couple of minutes later, the process is completed successfully. Injected some drivers, setting up the boot image. It created the ISO image that you need. So yeah, that's awesome. We can press finish, and that's done. And then if we look at the location, we see that it has created a light touch media ISO file of 7 gig in total. Yeah, that consists of drivers, OS, setup, yeah, all the files that we need, basically. So what we do now is we want to write this file to a USB drive. We are going to do that. Also in this demo, if you want to do that, you can use a lot of tools in doing that. Maybe you have your favorite tools. What I mainly use for this is Rufus. So again, I go to Google, Rufus download. Bum. And I don't like this version. Yeah, go to here, Rufus. Yeah, okay. Download. Okay, so once the Rufus has been downloaded, you can just double click, press yes. You can choose either yes or no. For now, it's no. Okay, what you want to do, and I don't have it here because since I'm working in a VM and for some reason I cannot attach my USB flash drive right now, but mostly what you want to do is copy over your ISO file to your physical machine or whatsoever, run Rufus from there, and make sure that you have your USB flash drive inserted before you start Rufus, and then you see at the device selection screen, you see your USB flash drive. Always pay attention to the amount of gigabytes that the drive has, and in my case, I have 64 gig drive, so you see very in clear sight that it's the correct disk. That's a 64 gig disk. Um, what you do then is you open the ISO file that you have created. So you go to select and you go to this PC, to your C drive, to your MDT ISO location, and you're going to choose the Light Touch Media ISO. Well, since I have nothing selected here, nothing fills up. But what fills up then is that partition screen, target system, everything fills up. You don't have to change anything. So after selecting the ISO file and after selecting the correct device, so the USB flash drive in this case, you can press start and it will start building your USB flash drive. Remember, as soon as you press start, you get a pop-up as well warning you that it will completely destroy all information that's on the flash drive and reformat it and install the ISO to it. So agree with that. And yeah, that's basically all you have to do. So check the device, check the Light Touch Media ISO, and press start, and then it will run. Make sure that you have, yeah, I would say in this case, I think you would come away with an 8 gig flash drive, but I would say please make sure that you have 16 gigs to be sure that you don't run into problems. And again, I wouldn't even start with USB 2.0 flash drives. Yeah, for demo purposes, that's fine, but you would see that it takes a lot longer to image a machine. Um, if you move to production, please make sure that you have USB 3 drives because that goes way faster. And you're really going to see times of just a few minutes before a complete rollout. It's really awesome to witness. So okay, so that's one way of doing it. There are a lot of tools that you can write ISO files with, but I know for sure that Rufus is a great tool and it works every time. So I can really advise you in using that. Um, okay, since we have the ISO file, I will start moving that to another environment and then I will continue the video and I'm going to show you how it will look from the client side. Okay, so we just booted off the ISO. So we're gonna boot off the ISO right now in this environment. So it's loading up the files. So every device, it differs a little bit how you can boot from an ISO. In this case, it's a virtual machine, but you can once you boot off a laptop and you want to boot off a USB flash drive, it either be the escape key or the F9 key or the F12 key to enter the boot menu, and then you should, yeah, say that you want to boot off the USB flash drive. So we've done that here in the virtualized environment, and then you see that we Startups, it does some stuff, and then it asks the test sequence to execute on this computer. So this is the only test sequence that we have created. So it's the demo Windows 11 enrollment. If you have multiple autopilot configurations, you will have multiple task sequences here. The great part about it is that we can use the same image, and it basically the only difference in the other test sequence would be that it creates copies over another configuration file, so another autopilot configuration file. I explained to you that earlier in the video. You need a separate task sequence for every autopilot profile that you want to be able to enroll. So if you in your tenant have multiple autopilot profiles, you need to have multiple task sequences because it needs to copy over another autopilot configuration file. In our case, we only have one, so that's why we also have only one test sequence. We press next. So this is the screen where it's actually formatting the disk and partitioning the disk. And after that, it's going to apply the image. Well, I can tell you already that this process here is a little bit slower in the virtual machine than if you have physical hardware that supports USB 3. So, and this already goes rather fast, but it's I dare to say that it's double as fast on a laptop with USB 3 support. So okay, I'll just let it run because I want you to witness the sort of speed that you can expect for a deployment like this. I think we started about like 1 minute ago or so. So it's pretty damn fast. It's a whole lot faster than clicking through all the questions and answers that you have to give during a normal installation. So like you've seen, it's just one touch deployment. So the only question that's there is like, which task sequence do you want to run? That's the only question you get. It's the only click you have to make. So it's, yeah, it's pretty simple. Well, it's one touch. It's actually a two touch. So you need to select the task sequence and then click OK. So okay, two touch deployment. You could even skip that if you make some edits in the configuration files in MDT. You can say, oh, yeah. So you could edit that and just to run a task sequence straight away, but there is a catch in doing that, and that's why it's not the preferred way. Even though I have only one task sequence, I could create something like that. But if you have misconfigured your boot configuration on a device, then it would mean that it would come in a strange boot loop. Then every time it would keep formatting and reinstalling the operating system because there is no question. And like that, if it would happen in this case that you misconfigured the boot configuration in BIOS, so it boots every time off USB, then after the installation phase, it would start the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit again, but it will stop at the question. And then, well, if you see that, then you might think, okay, this is wrong because it rebooted again. Then you can shut down the machine and start it over again, and then it just boots off Windows 11. But you will not come in a strange boot loop. Okay, so this was the complete deployment. So it just took a couple of minutes, and that even in my virtualized environment. So that was pretty damn fast. Now it's going to boot the OS for the first time. So it is taking a little bit longer than usual because it's going to look up for devices and hardware and stuff like that. Um, that you normally see uh, during the first year, getting devices ready, installing services, stuff like that. Yeah, it takes a little bit longer than usual, um, but it's normal at the first boot. So, and again, I will keep this rolling. So just to give you the sense of how it would be in a real life scenario. Um, no cutting here. This is how it is. And again, um, on real hardware, it would be a little bit faster than it is in the virtualized environment. I have a limited amount of RAM, limited amount of CPU power I can give it, but you will see that it's still pretty darn fast. And there it is. And now it should come up with the out of the box experience. And there you have it. Well, it's actually saving virtual machine state and stuff. Again, on real hardware, this process is going to be faster than that you've seen here. So, in my opinion, it's still fast. I mean, from actually starting from the ISO file into getting to the out of office experience, just a couple of minutes. And that's pretty darn fast if you ask me. And yeah, if you can do like a whole complete environment like this, like maybe hundreds of laptops that you need to roll out, this is a real nice experience, real fast experience in doing this like this way. So here you are. So this is the out of the box experience that you would expect if you have a new or fresh installed machine. Um, I'll just leave this stuff at default. You can choose the language. Normally, I would choose the Netherlands here and choose the right input for the keyboard. I will just leave it at default right now. I just want to show you um, how it will progress further. And here you are. This is the screen where you log in using the email and password that you have for your tenant account. And in my test, it's the CloudByte account. I would be able to log in here, press next, maybe you need to fill out some MFA information or whatever your tenant requires. Um, and then it starts to enroll. And it starts to enroll like in Autopilot. And you will get your applications, your policies, everything set up, maybe scripts that are connected to the user, to the machine. Everything will be deployed then. If you have a status enrollment page, directly after logging in here, you will see the status enrollment page. You can even follow what's happening. Um, I will not address that right here, right now, because the video is already as long as it is. It's a really long video in the end. Maybe I will do a separate video on autopilot and stuff like that in the future. Um, but this is it, guys. This is what we've all been working for. Um, I hope this video was very beneficial to you and you can really use it and it will help you out. If you have any questions, just hit me up, write me something below, or send me a message, whatever. Look at my blog. You can also contact me there. I'm always happy to help. Um, this was the end of the video.